What's going on, everybody? You've got the cardboard coach here with your boy, Coach Co. And team, today we've got a very special guest on the podcast here today. We've got Adam, aka Ville. How you doing today, man?
What's up, guys? How's everyone doing? How's it going, Brendan?
I'm glad to have you here, bro.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite.
So we've met twice in Florida now, which is funny because I mean both of us are from like the Northeast.
This is
it's,
weird.
it's hilarious. I'm like, how the hell? So we initially met at the Bay Area Card Show. Shout out Louis and the team over there. They do great work and just like incredible hospitality to anyone who comes in. And then
Cannot physically say better things about Louis.
yeah, honestly. And then again, we met in Florida, Miami this time. Hobby Slam was last weekend. And again, a great bunch of people, incredible hospitality. Every time I leave Florida, it just feels like I leave with like more members of my family, which is kind of crazy.
Florida's so great, and it's so great for cards, and it's funny because like the majority of the country hates Florida.
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, I'm a big Florida guy, but I guess like from Canada, it's like normal for people to love Florida. There's a lot of people that there's like we have snowbirds. Pardon?
What's the weather like up there right now?
It's probably like 82, 83. Like it's warm.
Okay, so it's not like does it get like scorching hot up there like in the summer?
Yeah, so when we were in Florida, it was actually warmer here than it was in Florida. Like it was probably like 96 or so.
Okay.
Yeah. It's probably 10 degrees colder at any given time than Philadelphia.
1 degree
Or
Celsius, right?
pardon?
It's like 1 degree Celsius, right?
No, so 10 degrees Celsius. So I would say that's probably like let's say 15 to 20 degrees colder in Toronto than Philadelphia, usually, especially like in the wintertime. But
Okay.
I find the summer times are like pretty close. Like that
Yeah.
gap closes to like 8 to 10
Now
degrees.
that now that I think about it, you're in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
The last time I went to Toronto was when I was living in Louisville, Kentucky, and I went there in like I have to say it was like May or June, and I remember it being like hotter in Toronto than where I was in the South. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we definitely get a bad rap for just being cold all year long, but
no,
like in the wintertime it's frigid.
for sure.
So talk to me a little bit about the Hobby Slam for you. For me, it was pretty interesting to obviously see. So I mean, there's a lot of big operations in Florida. I mean, the guys from Bullwax. There's Backyard in Florida. Um, a Mint. Like, there's a lot of pretty big established names in Florida. Probably because of the tax situation and the weather. And it wasn't just those guys who were prevalent this weekend. Like I saw a lot of people buying and a lot of people selling. Honestly, it gave me a lot of faith. It was like a highly transacted show, I think. So I'm curious to hear like what your perspective was on Hobby Slam.
Hobby Slam for me. So first of all, can't personally start off with saying Imano and Pete, who put on that show, aside from being great people, like outside of business, they threw an amazing event, like an amazing event. And I I think as card shows are starting to get, and I really like that direction, cards were secondary at that show. And I think it was I told Imano, I texted him on Sunday, I was at the airport. I said, I networked better at your shows than any of the three nationals I've been to. And I think it was a very good gathering. A very good group of people were there. And on top of that, the cards were great, as they always are at big shows. The venue was great, minus the outrageous pricing of like food in the hotel that the show was at. But dude,
Crazy.
do you remember when you walked into the show? There was like that little stand right by the side by those tables.
Yeah.
One morning, I got a Gatorade and a fruit cup, and it was $17.
I went to the breakfast because there was
The
nothing
breakfast
open.
was outrageous.
Bro, I went to the breakfast because there was nothing open like early and I was up pretty early on the Friday. And it was like 6 a.m. It had just opened and there was no prices anywhere. And I was like, you know what? Like hotel breakfast, like what's the worst it could be? And so I sat down, I ate, I had like a bagel, oatmeal, and like an omelet. And I had to like run out of there because I had some stuff to do in the morning. And I get this bill, 38 bucks.
Yeah,
It's like
crazy.
crazy,
It's crazy.
crazy.
But
No.
Hobby Slam was really good. Definitely a show I'm gonna have on like my, my unofficial must hit every year type events. It was very good. The networking was good. The trade night Saturday was interesting. It was fun. Yeah, it was a really fun time.
Good, I'm glad. And like from like a business perspective, like did you think that you did like a fair bit of buying, a fair bit of selling? Like,
Um, yeah. Um, the thing about card shows nowadays, especially considering what I do for work, and we can get into that later,
yeah,
is you can make the worst show the best show, and sometimes the best shows are the worst shows. Like I don't do well buying at the National,
yeah,
at least in the convention center. The trade
yeah,
nights and the outside stuff is a totally different story. But
yeah,
physically, show at the National, I don't buy very much. But at these smaller shows, like, or not smaller, but at these other shows, I do really well. Something I've been preaching, excuse me, something I've been preaching a lot recently is relationships. And I think people truly don't realize like how good it is to have prior relationships and to form new relationships when you're at these shows.
yeah,
When I travel for these shows, it's funny and it makes no sense when you think about it, but I spend most of my time at these shows buying from the same people that I talk to every day outside of these shows, which on the surface you would think, why wouldn't you just text them or FaceTime them and do the deal over the phone and just
yeah.
avoid the show? But it's the experience. Um, there were there were a couple people that I try to at least deal. Part of me is like scared to deal with new people because like I don't know I don't know how to feel them out.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Does this guy need the every all the dollars in the world? Does this guy really give good deals? Like I don't know. But there were a couple people that I dealt with for the first time in Miami, and definitely will continue to make them customers. So that was good.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that for me, the hobby really changed when I started going to more shows and
Mhm.
even if we don't call it like networking, but just like building relationships. You know what I mean? Not only from like a business perspective, but also just from like an enjoying the hobby perspective. Like I think so much of this hobby has become like consuming content on the internet, and if you get too wrapped up into that, like it can be quite grim sometimes because a lot of the headlines are, like this most expensive card was pulled or this manufacturing error made its way like all the way to this person, right? Like, and so much of it that's lost is like I opened this episode up by saying that like I left Florida both those times were like my a bigger family, and like
Yeah,
truly, like I mean you spend 3 or 4 days with like the right people, and it's just your whole experience changes.
about 2 years ago when I started making traveling to card shows a regular part of my routine, well before I joined the business that I work for now, I made a not a goal. I made myself a promise. One day I was on a plane. I was going to some show. I forget what show. And I said to myself, I said, I want to leave every show I go to for the rest of my life with at least one new phone number of someone that I can benefit something from. And not only that, they can benefit something from me. So I try to go to every show I go to, whether it's small local show or big show. I try to make sure that I leave with at least one new phone number of somebody that I can not use, like that's a weird way to use it, but like someone that I can benefit from, like,
Yeah.
and not only benefit from them, but like mutual, like, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, of course it does, man. And it's funny, like sometimes you meet people in, like just the most random ways at these shows. Like
Yeah,
I know that for me, I got in on a Thursday, and I was like waiting in the lobby because the check-in system was down, and someone else who was attending the show was also like stuck in the lobby, and we ended up like shooting the shit for the entire time that the thing was down. Like Amano's like, oh, I'm like, are you good? And I'm like, yeah, like everything's good. Don't worry. Like I happened to start talking to this gentleman, and like we ended up chatting for like the entire time, like the Thursday, the Friday, the Saturday. Like I bought some off him, he bought some off me. Like all of a sudden, we built this relationship off of like two people being mutually kind of like stranded, and it's just like moments like that you can't really pay for. Like that's really what I'm looking for from this hobby, man. It's just like
Yeah,
this,
for
like
sure.
these imperfectly perfect interactions, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So talk to me a little bit about your you mentioned that you have a role in this hobby currently, and I want
Yeah.
to discuss, what it was and what it is now. So let's start with like where we are at right now. So you work for Bridgeport Hobby,
So
correct?
I say I don't want to say currently because it makes it sound like I'm leaving soon. But
Yeah.
I work as the head of purchasing for a card shop in Chicago called Bridgeport Hobby. We are one of the top rated card shops in the entire Midwest. For the Canadians watching, that is the little region around Illinois and Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan and all those states. And we are the highest rated card shop in the state of Illinois. Um, I am the head of purchasing there. On top of that, I do various other things for the business, but that is my title. And yeah, I uh, I am 28 years old. I uh, I started collecting in 2004, 2005. Um, I was given a box of 2004 tops and 2005 tops. Actually, yeah, it was 2005. Someone gave me a box of both 2004 and '05 tops baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan, and I ripped those and I started building the set. And over time, cards have just been a very big part of my life.
That's awesome. I mean, especially to hear that you've been in the hobby for 20 years or so. Like
Yeah.
how how have you seen the hobby change in like the last 20 years? I mean, obviously, like looking back on it, did you think that you'd ever have an opportunity to be in this hobby full time?
No. So when I was in middle school and high school, I and we're talking like to give you guys a time frame. So I was in middle school from 2006 to 2008, and then high school from '09 to 2013. So during that time, you know, there wasn't a big hobby Instagram. There wasn't trade up challenges. There wasn't card vloggers. There wasn't any of that. It was so, and it wasn't really on the internet because social media hasn't really like at this time evolved into what it is now.
Yeah.
There were forums and there were online forums for people who collected and traded and bought and sold. There weren't repackers. There weren't any of that. So when I was in middle school and high school, cards were a very big part of my life, and I used to get bullied for it. People used to think it was weird that I was doing cards, or everyone loved sports, but no one thought that like cards were gonna, you know, whatever. And I wasn't in it for money. I was in it for the enjoyment that it brought me.
Yeah.
Um, and then fast forward to 2018, I started taking it very seriously, or a lot more seriously on the business and content aspect. I created the Ville account purely as I used to get autographs in person from like athletes and celebrities. So I made the Ville account. I was living in Louisville, Kentucky, and I made the account just to kind of showcase, players who I got to sign and stuff that I bought and all that kind of stuff. And then um, the pandemic hit in 2020, and autographs, at least doing it in person, you have to be face to face with the person. You got to go to the games. You got to get stuff signed, and in person autographs for about 18 months just died completely during the pandemic. You couldn't go to a baseball game or a basketball game and get players to sign for you because they weren't open to the fans. And Around 2020, I was one of the, just like everyone else, I was buying retail and selling it and all that kind of stuff. And I realized how much more tight knit the community for sports cards was on Instagram than autographs. And I don't want to say I switched because I never left autographs.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I just like started doing cards during COVID because that's just not true at all. But I
Hmm.
kind of shifted my focus to cards, at least on Instagram. Shifted my focus to cards, and yes, started just being a degenerate, ripping boxes and all that kind of stuff. And in 2021, March of 2021, me and my three friends, who I want to say are no longer my friends, but me and my three friends at the time, we were living in different parts of the country. We all did cards, and we booked a trip to the Dallas Card Show just because we wanted to check it out. That was the first time I ever paid for my own flight anywhere in the world. Went to the Dallas Card Show, had a great weekend there, and ever since then, I have the card shows are what really brought out the fun in the hobby for me. Um, I've been, doing it ever since, making shows a regular part of my routine, um, and uh, amassed a pretty substantial following over the next. So that's 2021. Over the next 2 years, amassed a pretty substantial following, um, and eventually did it full time for a little bit on my own. Um, and then I decided to join forces with my boss Rob at Bridgeport Hobby, and I moved to Chicago after some life events happened that I don't really want to get into on here. But yeah, moved to Chicago in March of 2023, and I've been here ever since, working for Bridgeport Hobby, and can't say I wish it would have gone any differently.
Yeah, it's funny that sometimes that's just how it works out. It's like you have no idea that you're supposed to make a left here, and you really think you need to make a right, and if you just drive down the road for long enough, you kind of figure out that this way is actually a little bit better than the way you thought it was supposed to
Yeah.
go. So talk to me a little bit about, I mean, so you're coming from the autograph market. I mean, you said you were collecting before that too, so it's not like I'm discrediting where you were at, but how how do you as a collector change? Like, do you now have more access to autographs? Are you very focused on which autographs you want to seek out? Do they just come
About
about randomly?
Are you talking about for like in-person autograph stuff?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, we can talk about even like collecting autographs in general. Like, do you just do in-person autographs? Is that like the only thing that you collect?
Well, I mean, I collect various things, but not like intently. Probably the only other thing I heavily collect outside of autographs is vinyl records. But I also collect them autographed, which goes hand in hand with autographs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been a collector of everything. Just my collecting has been a big part of my life ever since I can remember.
Give me something unconventional you collect.
I got like I don't know, like bobbleheads, like weird, like clothing, like I don't know, like stuff. I'd call myself a realistic hoarder. Like I love having stuff, and I love having like a wide variety of stuff, and and then eventually I like know that I have too much stuff and I get rid of it. So
Yeah. It's funny. I was watching the Golden like King of Collectibles season 2 yesterday, and one of the guys on the show called himself a high-end hoarder, and I'm like, I
yeah.
know like 2,000 people that fall into that category. And I also believe that everyone collects something. And
Oh
so
yeah.
go for it.
Everyone's. I think people who don't collect anything at all are weird. Like I think
Yeah.
that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. Like I genuinely believe everyone collects something, and I think that the like if you spend enough time thinking about it, you'll know exactly what it is. And if you spend enough time in this market, your collecting will also kind of change.
Mhm.
And so I guess my next question is like, but back to the autographs, how how has your collecting shifted? Since 2018, let's say, when you really started to ramp it up. And like maybe we can go outside of autographs here, but it was strictly autographs before? What percentage of your collection now is what?
No, I mean, like I said, I've always collected. stuff. Um, but no, 20. Really good question. Um, 2018, I've really, I'm going to kind of contradict myself with what I'm about to say, so like bear with me.
You'll
But
be fine.
2018, when I was getting autographs, it was more quantity over quality. I just wanted to have more signed things
Yeah.
and good signed things, and eventually I thinned it out into the stuff that I really care about.
Yeah.
Uh, but now I've kind of changed and went back at the same time. I've realized that, like, for at least with cards, and again with like signed stuff that I have, it's cool to have a lot as long as it means something to you. Like, I used to just collect like signed cards, for example, like signed like cards that I got signed. I
Yeah.
would collect players that like I have no emotional attachment to, and I just like was stacking up the numbers. And eventually I was like, I don't even know who this guy is. Like, why do I have this? And so now I'm more so focusing on, the stuff that just basically I'm not collecting something if it doesn't mean something to me. Like,
Yeah. I love that. I mean, because that's kind of what collecting is all about.
mhm.
And, when we talk about, it's funny, every single day I get at least one person that says that like blank ruined the hobby. And,
Yeah,
uh, and I just, I always get like infuriated by like a statement like that because like the hobby's not ruined. The hobby evolves. The hobby's ever
it might have
changing.
ruined the hobby for you. It might have ruined your experience, but it didn't ruin the overall hobby in general.
I think it's an important distinction to make as well. And I would encourage those people who think the hobby is ruined to like really think about what aspects of the hobby that they can control.
If
Do you know what I mean? Like,
if you are so bothered by something that someone else did in this industry that you would deem the entire hobby ruined because of them, your perception of the world is wrong. Like,
I
like
like that.
that's just facts. Like, if
Oh,
you think that such and such came into this space and made all this content, got all these followers, made all this money, like, and they ruined the hobby, whether it's for everyone or just for you, like, your whole outlook on life is just wrong. Like,
I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you, especially because I think the world is what you make of it, truly. I think that the hobby is what you make of it. I think that if retail is too expensive or hobby boxes are too expensive, then, move into singles and I'm sure you can find some cool stuff. If, you know, ultra modern's too expensive, I'm sure there's like players you grew up watching that are probably cheap and you can buy those. Like I don't there's always something. Like and I just don't really subscribe to the idea that like this is ruined. I know for
no,
me, like I can't really justify. I mean, I like prospecting. That's like a something I thoroughly enjoy doing. And especially early on, like 2020, 2021, it was like a lot easier to prospect
mhm.
in terms of like financially, I think. And like nowadays, like as soon as a product drops, I mean the top chases are probably like are just crazy, like astronomical prices, and
Yeah,
something I'm not willing to jump into.
no,
And so while I'm like waiting, I'm like I get to collect other things. Do you know what I mean? And I get to just kind of watch things unfold. Or you just change your timing on in terms of like buying things. Like it's I don't know if there's you just make adjustments.
yeah, we're gonna see a lot of like I tell people, like, I don't buy, like, at least for for what I do for work, I don't buy like people. So many people have come in recently with like a Wembenyama like color from Select, which came out like, or not Select, Optic, which came out like, I think it was like last week.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I don't touch it until like it's been like at least a month and a half. Like, I don't, like, because it's just gonna go down for the most part.
I think also an important part, like point to make, right? Like, because you're right, and it's almost like if you buy early on, regardless of performance or demand, like demand will never really meet those early sales, and especially if you're trying to churn and burn so quickly, it's just not. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you can't sell that thing fast enough.
No, I know. I get that.
Talk to me a little bit about the process of like buying. Like, I mean, you mentioned one thing that you do, and that's typically like waiting, 6 weeks or so before buying up a certain product. Do you have any other sort of like buying strategies?
Mm, yeah.
Like what do you look out for?
Well, I don't. I made this rule very recently. I no longer buy any player I've never heard of.
Okay,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah. Uh, yeah. If I haven't at least heard of you, like I don't. I'm not a big NFL fan. Like I'm not at all. And like most of my knowledge of the, the not like the big quarterbacks obviously, but like the up and comers for the NFL, like the year's rookie class, I learned who they are from following the card market. Like I don't follow football that well. Like so buy what you basically just like using putting that in perspective, buy what you know about.
Yeah.
Uh, and if you're buying something you don't know about, do your research before you buy it. Um, like a lot of like and it's funny, people always think I'm crazy for saying this. I love baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan. It's easily my favorite sport, but I hate Bowman. Like I hate it like so much. And it's weird because a lot of people, at least in today's world with sports cards, when they think, "Are you buying baseball?" they're talking about Bowman, and I avoid Bowman because people will buy and pay very strong on players that they know nothing about, like nothing. And
Yeah.
Bowman, I'll buy Bowman of like players who I know are going to be like going to play. But, Bowman Chrome, when Bowman Chrome comes out, there's going to be all these players in there, and their red autos are going to go for 30, 40, $50,000, and they'll never play in the league. And I try to avoid buying Bowman.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it? Like I've tried to map the trajectory traditionally, and like I find that Bowman reaches like close to full maturation at like the 5 or 6 year mark. So
Yeah,
like if you look at like Acuna, he was like 2017 or 2016, I think,
yeah.
and he won the MVP in like 2022. I think it might be 2017 and 2022, but it's like 5, 6 years.
Mhm.
Soto was like 2016 and won it in 2020. You know what I mean? Like it's like,
The thing that's good to do with Bowman is if you do follow like prospects, like the thing to do is now I follow baseball enough that I know which prospects are going to be good, but or not. Let me take it back. I don't know which prospects are going to be good. I know which players are like playing well in the minor leagues right now.
yeah,
Um, but the thing with Bowman is don't hold it past when they debut. Like there's like endless data on and like research on buying players Bowman and selling it when they debut
yeah,
is holding it like I saw something one time that said you could have bought Julio Rodriguez's first Bowman. I forget which color it was, but one of the Bowmans, I don't know if it was a base or refractor or gold or whatever. You could have bought some Julio card the day he debuted or the day he got called up in 2022. I think it was 22. Yeah, 2022 or
yeah,
2021,
I
whatever.
think it's 2022.
Could have bought the card that day he debuted, which is as a buyer looking to make money, that is the work. Do not buy Bowman players when they get called up. Like sell before. But someone said you could have bought this Julio card the day he got called up, held it for him to win Rookie of the Year, be an All Star, and be the franchise player for the Mariners. Sell it now, and you would have lost 30%.
That's crazy.
It's just that's just how Bowman works. It's just. But had you bought it when the product came out in 2019, held it, and then sold it when he got caught up, he would have made like 3,000%. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, and especially if it comes from, I mean, the thing is, it's so tricky because I remember the hype on Julio before he got called up. Like even like 2020 hype on Julio. I remember like 2020 hype on like Marte and who was the other guy that was huge in that class? It wasn't Ronnie Mauricio. It was the Giants player. What was
Marco Luciano.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Marco Luciano. Another guy who like was highly touted in that class. And they never reached like even close to that when they debuted. And so it's like even if you play that debut game, you could still very well get skunked because the early prices are just so outrageous. I mean, the amount of accolades that are kind of forecasted into these players,
No, I know it's crazy.
like what do they have to do? If you look at even like Mookie Betts' first Bowman is dirt cheap for someone who's
No,
won
I
two
know.
World Series, two MVPs, you know?
Bowman's crazy. Bowman's good for like buying and selling and trading during the minor league season.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Doesn't make any sense.
I know it's crazy.
What kind of stuff do people look out for in Chicago? So at the shop, what are they looking for?
You know, Chicago players.
Yeah.
We
I- I-
get our shop is 4 blocks from the White Sox Stadium, so we get a lot of people who come in wanting White Sox cards. A lot of people ask for Derrick Rose still, which is really
Really?
surprising but kind of cool. A lot
That
of
is
people ask
cool.
for Rose. Um, we've gotten a lot, and I'm sure we're going to continue to get questions about Caleb Williams now that he's with the Bears.
Yeah.
Uh,
What about
for
Bedard? So like
Bedard,
has the hockey hype kind of like
yeah, Bedard was a oh go if you subscribe to PSA Magazine, they interviewed me about the Bedard Young Guns in the June issue. But
that's
yeah,
really cool.
when and I told PSA, I said when Series Two Upper Deck came out, we've never sold like more of a product, at least since I've been working there, than that box
A product at all?
at all.
Really?
Yeah, I mean you got to understand it was the first time in a long time that Chicago had the number one overall pick in any sport.
Yeah.
So and they got it at the perfect time. So Bedard was crazy. We still from time to time have people come in and ask for it. Now that they timed the hockey releases with the season's time frame so poorly.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But not many people come in now asking for Bedard now that hockey season has ended and the Blackhawks have didn't even come close to making the playoffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bedard. We get we're a White Sox shop, but we still get Cubs fans that come in and ask for Cubs players. But yeah, Chicago's a weird market when it comes to owning a card shop. There's not a ton of like true collectors, and there's also not a ton of flippers, which is obviously good because I hate when someone comes into the shop and they're like, I need to pay this percentage because I'm going to make this much money, and I'm like, well, we do the same thing, so we're not going to get this done. But at the same time, you do need people who come in with the intention to make money because you form a relationship with them and they buy a lot. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, no, Chicago's a good market for sports cards.
Do you find that there's like what percentage of sales take place online versus in the shop? Like do you have those kind of metrics?
So most of our so like the singles we buy, like when I'm at the show buying cards,
Yeah.
most of those I sell through our bulk buyers and through our Instagram story, um, which is very unconventional for a shop nowadays. Most
Yeah.
shops, when they go to a show, they're buying out cards and they're putting them in their showcases, and they move through the showcases, which great for those shops. Hopefully, one day we can get to that point where it's better for us like that, but it's just not what we do at this moment. Um, and then we also have our repacks, which we break on TikTok and Fanatics Live. So a lot of the cards we buy or I buy go into there. And then most of our wax is sold online. We break online. So probably our biggest seller in the shop, is obviously the wax.
Yeah.
Uh, there's not like one specific product or sport over like that's steadily the best seller. But yeah,
It sounds like you guys have really kind of embraced this like new world hobby shop, right? Like you guys
oh,
have so many offerings.
it's so different than like other shops.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's so many offerings. You really have like quite a large reach in terms of like the people you have access to, whereas like a conventional shop is very much like street traffic and stuff like that. And I mean, truthfully, a lot of them are kind of getting killed right now with some of the percentages if they strictly rely on wax. So
Mhm.
I mean, shout out to you guys for kind of figuring out different streams of revenue and to make sure that there's enough offerings for the people who want them.
No, yeah, I appreciate it.
Talk to me a little bit about you. What are some goals for you in the space? What are some goals for you as a collector in the next little bit?
Um, hmm, goals for me in this space.
Yeah.
Uh, this is gonna sound like really cliche, but at least in the industry, I've accomplished. I've already accomplished more than I would have anticipated. So I'm not going to be greedy and say I want this or this or this to happen. But whatever opportunities are presented to me, I will take advantage of. So to answer your question, basically just keep continuing to generate myself good opportunities. Um,
Why is that
and
cliche?
I don't know, because I don't want to be like I've done everything I want to do, because I don't know that I want to do it until it happens yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like that
Yeah.
means you're in the right spot and you're open to new things that come in. You know what I mean?
hmm Um, goals in this space. Can't reveal any more information than what I'm about to say, but me, along with the company I work for, I want to help throw the best local card show in Chicago. Um, yeah, I want to help put on an event that's remembered in Chicago. That's not the Chicago Spectacular or the National League. Yeah,
I'm excited for you, man. I
yeah
think it's
that is
100%
that
possible.
is something that is like probably the one aspect of this industry that I haven't tackled yet is throwing a show. Um, and I'd like to do that at some point.
Do you have like a timeline for that?
Eventually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can people contact you if they have a deal or they want to talk to you a little bit more about your
Yeah,
experience?
I am at Ville underscore graphs with an S on Instagram, Twitter, I guess TikTok, but I don't really use it. Um, and yeah, you can hit me up there. Try to respond if I can. But yeah, you can hit me up there, find me on there. And then the company is Bridgeport Hobby, at Bridgeport Hobby on basically every social media platform known to mankind. And yeah, just keep being yourself, people.
Fantastic. If you could leave listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Put the dollar sign before the number.
That's fair enough. That's funny. It's true though. It
Doesn't
kind
go
of throws me off
out.
too. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Does not go out unless you're in Europe. Does not.
Adam, I want to thank you so much for jumping on today.
Really
Team,
appreciate
make sure to check out Adam at Ville Graphs across all platforms as well as Bridgeport Hobby. If you've got any deals, if you're looking to buy, maybe if you're just looking for a great shop in the Midwest area, please go check them out. Team,
it.
thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode featuring Adam. Take care.